Hi there. Great to see you. Great to be with you again. Today we're looking at Psalm 14. Psalm 14. It's 7 short verses, so I'm going to read it to you. Read it to you now. The fool says in his heart, "There is no God." They are corrupt. They do abominable deeds. There is none who does good. The Lord looks down from heaven on the children of man to see if there are any who understand, who seek after God. They've all turned aside. Together they have become corrupt. There is none who does good, not even one. Have they no knowledge, all the evildoers who eat up my people as they eat bread and do not call upon the Lord? There they are in great terror, for God is with the generation of the righteous. Who would shame the plans of the poor? But the Lord is his refuge. Oh, that salvation for Israel would come out of Zion. When the Lord restores the fortunes of his people, let Jacob rejoice, let Israel be glad. Amen. This is another psalm of lament, and it's a communal lament, a community lament, a bit like Psalm 12 that I read to you on Saturday. This psalm looks at the foolishness of those who don't seek God and contrasts that with those who do seek God and understand God as their refuge. It also looks at the way in which the ungodly treat the godly, by and large, not in a good way. So the ungodly persecute the godly. All right. So the psalm begins by talking about the fool. And the fool in his heart says, "There is no God." Verse 1. The fool says in his heart, "There is no God." Now, in Hebrew, there are 3 words for fool. And each of them speaks to the morality of the individual rather than the intellect. So it's not as if the foolish person is a stupid person. It's simply that they're morally foolish, in that they're not seeking after God, or they deny God's very existence. So what happens in this psalm is that the community of God are crying out to God, seeking God as their refuge, because the ungodly are persecuting them. Now, there's a lovely line in this that you will recognize from the book of Romans. So in the book of Romans, in Romans 3 and verses 9 to 12 it says this: "What then? Are we Jews any better off? No, not at all. For we have already charged that all, both Jews and Greeks, are under sin. As it is written, none is righteous, no, not one. No one understands. No one seeks for God. All have turned aside. Together they have become worthless. No one does good, not even one." And so all have sinned in the book of Romans refers to the Psalm 14 and verse 3. They have all turned aside. They have all sinned. So the ungodly are made up of Greeks and Jews, all, as well as the godly being made up of Greeks and Jews, all. But some are wise in that they know to seek their refuge in God, and some are foolish in that they say there is no God. Now, what's so different in the world today from that description of where people are at? The foolish who deny the very existence of God, or the wise who say, yes, there is a God. There is the one true and living God, the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings, and I will seek my refuge in him. Verse 6, "You would shame the plans of the poor, but the Lord is his refuge." So in the midst of all this trouble, where the ungodly are unjustly dealing with the godly. The godly's response to the unjustness of those who are persecuting them is to turn to God, to seek him as their refuge. And then we get a lovely line right at the end. Oh, that salvation for Israel would come out of Zion. When the Lord restores the fortunes of his people, let Jacob rejoice, let Israel be glad. Oh, that salvation for Israel would come out of Zion. We understand the salvation coming out of Israel to be the Lord Jesus Christ. Now, I have a particular prayer, hope, vision. I'm going to use all three because I want to have a catch-all sense and feeling of this. My prayer is that when this outbreak of coronavirus is over, there will be queues outside our church in Magheralin and Dollingstown on Sunday mornings, waiting to get in. For the ungodly have understood their need to look for God. That in the midst of all this turmoil, in the midst of all this uncertainty, they will have understood their need to seek God. They will have understood that the Lord is their refuge. That is my prayer. I hope and pray that it maybe could be your prayer. That we will simply be blown away by the queues of people who want into our churches because of the refuge there is in the Savior, Jesus Christ. Now, in this Easter season, isn't that a good prayer? That the hope of the world, Jesus Christ, so speaks to the ungodly that they are drawn to him in incredible numbers. I pray that our churches are packed out on the Sunday that we're allowed back in to worship. And they'll be full of people who probably never crossed the doors before or haven't been in a long, long time. Such is their need for God. Fools no more. Amen.